Welcome to Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Lee Savino and Russell Nolte.
Yes, we do. Y'all, it was so fun, but it's different than our normal show. So I'm just telling you at the top.
Right. It's more of a roundtable. We have some of our usual questions, but we just really talked about just a different type of interview. We talked about change and easy versus hard, or ease versus challenging times, and letting go of past success and recalibrating your goals. And collaboration. We talked a lot about that, and co-creation, because Lee does a lot of that. Russell does a lot of that. And we've got some tips and ideas on that, and gave me some really good ideas. So this one is, if you want some out of the box ideas, Russell is really good at that, at coming up with new ways to think about and do things.
He is. And they have a podcast. So we'll put the link for that in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's been going on with you?
This week, I have been doing the edits for the trope book. So my portions are all done, and now it's just the reading and the back and forth and all that. I think that will be on pre-order soon. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. And if it is, I'll put a link in the next the next set of show notes, so you can get it there. So working on that. And then I'm moving the Cozy course, was on Teachable. Basically, it's archived. I'm not doing it anymore because I just have so many other things going on. I don't really have time to do it. And it really needs an update. The basics of the Cozy stuff are fine. That doesn't really change. But the videos and everything, they feel outdated to me. So instead of doing anything with it, I'm moving it over to Thrivecart, because they have an educational section where you can put in courses.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't either. I was trying to figure out where to move it, because I don't, Teachable has changed their plan. You can't really be on a free plan anymore. And I was grandfathered in for a little bit, but now they're finally, you have to pay to stay on there. I'm leaving basically because it's not really part of what I do. I don't really do courses anymore. So I've been working on that. And that's been taking all my time, looking into some swag for Author Nation. That's fun.
That is fun. I've ordered our cards, so we'll have cards to hand out. That'll be good.
What about you?
I have just been writing. I've said this a million times. I'm at the point where I'm sick of it, and it's stupid. And who would ever want to read this? I guess I'm on track.
Yes, you are. You're 100% on track. That's an actual stage of writing, I think. Yeah.
But I did book a developmental editor yesterday, so that will be in 3 weeks. I'll send it to her, which is right before Author Nation, so it works out. That gives me plenty of time. I'm going to probably be able to not go through it again, but go through some of the parts that I'm already a little questionable about. That gives me time, so that's good. I'm offering my launch workshop again on the 23rd at 6 p.m. Central Time. The link will be in the show notes. I'm also offering listeners a $25 discount for one-on-one consulting if you're interested. You can do that through one link. And we'll probably get on to the interview because it's a long one. And
it is, with 4 of us and topics that we're interested in. We go on for quite a while.
So it was great.
This is Sarah popping in for a moment as I'm editing the podcast to let you know that this is part 1 of 2. And just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know that part 2 will be coming out next week as well. Today, we are really excited to have Lee Savino and Russell Nolte here. How are y'all?
Doing great. How are you?
We are great, and we're so happy you're here.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I love this podcast.
Oh, thanks. That makes us feel good.
Yeah. We've been chatting before we started this, so I'm just going to read bios really quick, and then we're just going to have a conversation and catch up, basically, and see what y'all are doing.
Wonderful.
Lee and Russell are full-time authors and hosts of the Six Figure Author Experiment podcast. Russell is the USA Today bestselling author of fantasy books and comics who sits at the intersection of craft and commerce, helping authors create sustainable businesses that light them up. Lee is a 7-figure romance author with multiple USA Today and top 100 Amazon bestsellers, who has also coached multiple authors. She runs the Millionaire Author Mastermind Facebook group and co-teaches the Money Magic membership with Renee Rose, and a whole bunch. Y'all both have so much stuff going on.
Yeah. Let's jump back into what we were talking about before we got on the podcast. So we were talking about hard and what's not. And I had said that when I was really struggling, I told my daughter that writing is hard, but not writing is hard and painful. And she said, I guess you get to choose your pain. And Russell had some really interesting insight on that. And I did decide to choose the pain that I wanted. I wanted the pain of at least trying. But Russell, you had something really interesting about the difference between what we say we want it.
I mean, we all say that things are hard. Things are hard across the board, but I think we are misdefining the hard we mean. When we grow up, we are taught that things are easy or they're hard, and there's a spectrum. But if you define hard as opposed to easy, it's a lack of difficulty. So what you're trying to do when you play a game compared to God mode or easy mode, like you're turning down the difficulty so you don't have as much hard things to do. But being an author is hard. Running a business is hard. We have chosen to do a hard thing. So there's a disconnect in our brain when we're like, why can't things be easy? Because you're immediately like, I don't know, I could go like scoop ice cream. I could go invest in crypto. Like these are easier things. What we actually mean, I think, is we are not saying why are things easy? We're saying why can't there be more ease in this? And ease is a lack of friction. And if you consider hard when you are putting in 1 ounce of effort and you are getting less than 1 ounce back. So like that, I call logarithmic growth, where you're like, I literally can't even move this thing barely an inch. That's really hard. And then there's that hard where I'm doing this thing that used to be really good. It used to give me a lot of stuff. And now when I push it, it's barely worth it. And I call that algorithmic. You're putting in 1 ounce of effort and getting 1 ounce of turn. But the thing is, we all at some point, in order to get to success, had like an exponential thing. It was probably one, whether that was Amazon ads or KU or Kickstarter, or there was something where you just like, you just barely touch it and it like zipped forward. And we expect that zip to continuously happen. And I think we should not do the things that have logarithmic growth, but we also have to understand that a lot of these things that we push and they jettison, imagine that a Jenga set where you like are tapping things and you that one and it just like pushes all the way through. Those things tend to regress to the mean. So there's 3 things here. There's a thing that I want to do this thing, but it's not for me now. It's just like I push it and like I really want it and I can't. It's just too much friction. There's those things that are like, this is a grind to do. But like it used to be less of a grind. And then there is this group where like you used to get a ton of return from it and you just now get less. And so I used to spend $1 and get $5 from Facebook ads, and now I only get 2, but that's still double the effort you put in. That's still pretty good. But if you don't plan your future with your current, like properly calibrated, then you're going to keep expecting that 10x return. And even though 2x is still honestly better than most people get on Facebook ads, because the average return is 1.66 to 1 based upon what I have heard. That may be slightly different in publishing, but like across all entrepreneurs, if you I put $1 in and get $2 out, they'd be like, okay, how do I put in unlimited dollars in? So there's these kind of 3 things going when we think about hard. One is things are really too hard, but the other is my expectations have changed, or the reality changes, but I still expect the thing that happened before to still be true. Ooh, that was a big mouthful for that.
I love what you said about ease is the lack of friction. There are very few things in life that are without friction. And if they are, they're not really a lot of the time worth it. Do you want a relationship that's without friction? Because that just means you're going along side by side and you're not really coming together and exchanging ideas and having differences of opinions. Do you want a business that's without friction? Because it probably means it's stagnant, and that's not good either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot like children, right? I don't have any children, but I've been thinking about them a lot. Whereas we have 9 months to prepare for a baby. Like then if you have two babies, you have 18 months. Even if you get pregnant like the day after you have roughly 2 years to prepare for what is the hardest thing that like a human being basically can do. And none of that is easy. None of that is like without difficulty. But like when you're sitting up for 2 years and your baby is colicky and you're like, why is this so hard? It's okay. Can I just take the hard that's like they are children, not this extra hard on top of it?
Yeah.
But then we take these books and we're like, okay, I spent a year writing it. I did not incubate this business at all. I did not learn how this business works. I'm just going to put it up, and on day one, not with 9 months of lead time or 9 months of preparation, or even letting it simmer for a year. We're just like, up, rank dropped, it's over. Guess I got to write the next book.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have some unreasonable expectations a lot. I think that's part of our issue. And part of it is we have things that were easy, and then the situation changes and maybe they're not easy anymore. And we are stuck in this, but why isn't this easy? Like we're upset that it's not working, and we kind of get stuck there sometimes instead of going, okay, it's not working. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Figure out something else.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me has been letting go of what I used to have.
Yeah.
Letting go of the success I used to have, letting go of the money that I was making, letting go of all of that, and just saying, okay, this is the path we're on. And now what are you going to do with it? Sort of thing.
I've been talking about this a lot because I see across everyone, most everyone, incomes are down. You can look up Nielsen book scans, and the market has shifted. But we've been saying that for 10 years. Yeah. We've been doing this for 10 plus years. So I actually sat down last week and wrote out my values. I was like, what is this all about? What are you doing? I have been spinning my wheels. I get FOMO just like everyone else. I chase different projects. Right now, I have more money maybe to throw at the projects, but that is not necessarily always a good thing because this is a speculative industry and it's not a great investment industry.
Yeah.
And I do love money, and I've gone for some money goals really hard. And I'm in a recalibrating place, which is really a gift because we all recalibrate and we go back to what matters. And I realized that we're all lunatics.
Yeah.
This is not what are we doing? I'll just let it land there.
Yeah. What are we doing? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It is a very unpredictable business, and we would like it to be predictable. And when it's not, we kind of have to figure out what we're going to do.
Oh, I have a thing to say about that because I don't think that we want it to be predictable. I think we want it to be accurate to reality. I think we don't want it to be accurate to reality. So it's like people are saying, so let me give you an example from outside of publishing. We all know box office, right? Box office for movies. So for 100 years, we've been calculating box office the same way. And people have been saying the last few years have been the worst box office for movie theaters. But movie theaters have at the same time started to offer subscriptions. And they've started to put more commercials inside movies. And they've started to do things that box office is not a good reflection, I don't think, of the reality of the movie industry right now, how much a movie theater makes or even how much a movie makes. Yeah. But they're still using this as this benchmark. And I think in the 10 years that I've been in this industry, there's been very little change of how we judge success and how we actually build a business. Because the thing that we are lunatics about is that we are all chasing scale. Like, in order to make $100,000 on a book in a year, you have to sell 14,000 copies or get like 100,000 reads. I know it's more than that, or it changes fluctuatingly, but if you get like $1 a read, or you like are selling a $9.99 book and you make $7 on it, you have to sell 14. Do you know how hard it is to sell 14,000 copies of a thing? Anything. Yeah. And we're not even making we're not like making $1 million from selling that. We're just in LA, $100,000 like barely is breaking even. Right. So like there are ways. So, and there are a few ways, like in order to succeed in KU at the level that a lot of people need to, they have to do this whale reader, bump the algorithm, get so many people to read that. And there's finite number of whale readers. They just like whoever is in KU can only read I mean, even if you say 10 books a day, that's 3,000 books. There are that many books put out probably since I started this comment
Yes.
on Kindle. So look, what I learned working with so here's I met Lee at our first Future Publishing Mastermind, and I had this idea that I wanted to launch 12 books. The 12 books of the God's Risk Chronicles on retailers. Like I wanted to learn retailers, and that was going to be my 6-figure experiment. And I was like, Lee, you understand retailers, like you can help me with this.
Right.
And then we recorded like 4 episodes, and I was like, this is not the thing that matters. None of this stuff, like getting 6-figure on retailers doesn't matter. It's the podcast started to become this exploration of what actually matters and what moves the needle. And for the past year and a half, I for the first year we were doing this, I really was thinking about it. And then episode 31 of our podcast is all about how to build an integrated author ecosystem where like things amplify each other and things like work together. And you do 1 ounce of effort, and you might not get 10 ounces of effort back from Facebook ads, but because you have a direct store and a Kickstarter and you have retailers, you have these things, you're serializing the book, and then you're creating you're doing 1 ounce of effort and you're getting it back from all of these formats, from all of these other ways. And I realized that this is the way I've always run my business, and publishing just doesn't work this way. The minute a book is out and it spikes, the spike starts going down, and we're like, when's the next book coming out? When's the next book coming out? Elizabeth Gilbert has put out 8 books in her entire career. And granted, she has a business like doing guest speaker stuff and other things, but like Terry Pratchett put out 42 books in the Discworld series. I have put out 42 books. I can tell you that if that is the top level of what you could make from a series like that, I haven't even made a fraction of a fraction. And also, Terry Pratchett's not putting out any new books because he's dead. So what has he been doing for the past 10 years? Oh, someone's selling his books. His books are selling. So it just breaks this thing. Whereas if people sell books when they are dead, then you don't have to put out a new book, because at some point there has to be a way to make money on a series and a book without you putting out books, because and granted, AI can put out new books for you now, maybe, but like until that actually comes to pass, there is no way for J.R.R. Tolkien to put out another book ever.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't always have to have a new release, have something to boost our awareness of us or our backlist or whatever. Yeah. It's a good point.
So I was working, I took a call from an author the other day, and they were like, I have a trouble putting out emails because I always put my next book is coming in my email. And I was like, and she's like, don't have a new release. Haven't had a new release in a while, so I don't know what to put in there. I was like, okay, since you put new releases, I have to assume you have at least 1 book release. Then I know her. She's put a bunch of books. So it's like at any point you could talk about a series you already have. Right. And like you could talk about a bundle that you have. You can create, one of the great things once you have a back catalog is you can create a different offer every month. So you could do, everyone on this call could be like, I'm going to do a New Year's bundle, a Valentine's Day bundle, a St. Patrick's Day bundle, an Easter bundle, a out of school bundle, a Mother's Day bundle, a Father's Day bundle, a 4th of July bundle, a end of back to school bundle, a Labor Day bundle. That's just like one option. And you can do this one of 3 ways. You could put your own books in that bundle. Alana Johnson does. You could put your book along with other products that are not books. So maybe it's like a Mother's Day Pamper Me bundle. And you go to a bunch of like local shops or people online who also do direct selling and be like, hey, this is my warehouse. Send all your stuff here. We're going to all do a thing. We're going to promote it together. And then you could do that once a month and get different people to promote it. You could also put like your book with 5 other books. Maybe you do like a series locked cover just for all the 5 books in this promotion, got a new cover just for this promotion. And because they go together, they are thematic. You don't have to write a new series to do that. Like you could just make that happen like InfoStack does. And like you never have so if you put another book in every month, you have to have 12 books to be able to make this business work. I know people on Kickstarter that they do. I think you guys did this, but I know a bunch of people do this. They're like, oh, the blue covers are out. The white covers are out. The red covers are out. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, romance, you can just get the flower cover and the illustrated cover, and you can just iterate that way. And a lot of romance authors are moving into other products. And so the reason I went back to my values, though, is because I started to branch out in some of that. And then I realized I hated it. Russell said something before we hit record, which if you ever have Russell on a podcast, please just start recording as soon as he shows up. Because
it's true. It's true.
But he said, you pick your hard. Wait, that was you, right?
Yeah. And then I told the story about my daughter. Pick your pain.
Pick your pain. You pick the hard. And I was like, I don't like stuff. So I don't want to sell paperbacks. That was it. I went for a walk with my husband. I said, it's going to be hard. Whatever I choose is going to be hard. If I decide to write a couple books a year and that's all I do, if I decide to go to a bunch of signings and just market them, it's going to be hard. But I really don't want to go to signings. And I do like doing these podcasts, meet authors, and sprinting like this with my friends. We all show up and we sprint. So I love putting new words on the page. And I'm really excited about the character worksheet I'm going to fill out later today. So that's the heart I chose. And that's why I went back to the values, because I was like, there's so much opportunity here. There's so much noise. We're all delusional. This is crazy. It's just bonkers. And that's why it's awesome. And the only way to get through it is to figure out what you want, figure out what you love, and really hold the space for that, fight for that. And that's where I'm at. And I went for money for so long. And now I'm realizing, like, yeah, give me all the money. I love money, but I don't really want to think about it or go for it anymore, which is why Russell and I are like, we have a podcast called the 6-Figure Author Experiment, but we're still experimenting. We just talk a lot, though. We don't really talk about the money as much. And it's because we really want to go for stuff that really matters to us. And money, once you have some of it, you're like, yeah, been there, done that. I can pay my bills, but what else is interesting?
It sounds like the money isn't as motivating for you as it once was, and you're trying to find what you really love and just focus on that, right?
Exactly.
Oh, a thing that I know that Lee has not realized about herself is that the money was never important. It was the co-creation that was important to her, and how to like make things. Like, I'm doing a comic with her, and the most elated I ever hear her is like when there's new pages or when there's a new idea. The most excited I hear her on our podcast is when she talks about co-creating something else with somebody else, or like working with somebody else, or in some way. So the podcast, shockingly, the podcast, her co-written series, the comic, these are the things that she likes. And so my question is, how would you stay in flow there? Okay, so like you want to co-create stuff. So like you could make anthologies, then co-create stuff. You can put more of your stuff in other formats. I personally am very much likely. I do not want to do black and white and red and blue bundles, but I do like podcasts. I'm working with Plot Drive now. Like, I like strategic partnerships. I'm co-teaching courses and stuff. Those are the things that I'm like, how can I now take the material that I have and bring it into new formats or do stuff? But again, like Lee, I don't want to do it myself either. I'm like, how do I like work with somebody to take this knowledge? Because I've written now 76 books, something like that. And it's just, I don't want to write about saving the fairy realm another time. Like in my life, like I've done it now. So many iterations of the Cosmic Weave.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you're like, okay, but like, how can I take that and be like, all right, I would say, Lee, you have 2 books next year that you're going to write, and you want to make $250,000. So using only the stuff you love, make $250,000. Like, how are you going to do that? And you can't use any of the stuff you hate. So like, you can't use like doing new covers. You can use Facebook ads if you're outsourcing like Facebook ads or something like that. But you either have to outsource a thing so it's off your plate, delete it completely, or find the things in yours, automate it, or find things in your zone of genius that will generate revenue. And those are your only options, but they are not actually your only options. You could always go back to stuff you hate. If money is down. When money was down for me, I would always go to a show or do something. I was like, ugh, this works, but I don't want to do it.
Right.
Well, anyway, all of those things, especially when you have some success, is what you start realizing is like, oh, 6 figures isn't going to do it. 7 figures isn't going to do it. Like 8 figures. I don't know. I haven't hit 8 figures yet. So maybe that'll do it like for me. But last year I had the biggest year I've ever had revenue wise, and my company collapsed like 4, 5, 6 months later. So that's just generating revenue is not it either.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think that is one of the mistakes that authors make, that they think the money will do it. The money makes it easier. I'm not going to lie, because I've made a lot of money and I've not made a lot of money. If you saw my KDP dashboard, you would be shocked. But I quit looking at it because just was like, that's depressing. And that is not the mindset I need. If this is the pain I'm choosing to continue to write, then I have to find something else that's it's got to be about more than money. It's got to be about more than just the next sale or the next page read, because that stuff we can't control it. We just can't control it. But I can control some of the things that I think, and all the things I think. I just choose to only control some of them. And the words I put on the page and what I put on the page, not just how many words, but what I choose to write. That, like you were saying, the things Lee loves to do, the things I love about writing.
Yeah.
So,
once you unlock that level of money, you always know how to hit that level of money. It's just like, how do I hit this money with more joy next time? How do I do X, Y, and Z thing to like maybe this, and like every year becomes its own experiment, because you're like, okay, like maybe this is going to make me happy. Maybe I'm going to be able to do this. And I feel like I've made roughly the same amount of money in my wannabe press business every year since 2017. My goal was not to make triple the money. That was nice, but it was to do that $100,000, $150,000 with the least effort possible. So how I've been able, people do not believe me that like my day is done by noon and then I go to a movie or walk the dog, or I just have no things. If I have more than one thing on my schedule, I'm not like happy. So, but like that was a conscious choice that every year was like, how do so I have this thing called Happiness. And the idea is to invest in your happiness as much as you invest in your money. And like I kept taking all of the excess and investing in systems, investing in all of this stuff. And like when you think about like how exhausting it is to learn automations or all of these things, like all of this stuff that like is partially exhausting. Like the end result is like, how do you buy back your time?
right.
So often when we're in the process of doing it, we're not actually buying back our time. We're just like accumulating money or spending money to do the same thing. But if we like zoom out a little bit and we're like, okay, maybe I don't hit 7 figures next year. Maybe I hit $200,000, but like I am happy every single day. What does that look like? I tell people what is the win condition? 5 years from now, you have won the game. And what does your day look like, hour by hour, minute by minute? What are you actually doing? And you have to visualize it. Once you visualize it, you can pull it forward.
Right.
Like that. And I always tell people I'm like 60 to 80% retired, because like most of my time is just putzing around doing the stuff that I always wanted to do as an author. But it used to be 0%. And I was doing all of the hard stuff. And I was like, what do I have? When I was like, oh, I can just pull this forward, and I have the bandwidth to pull this forward. And like, we think we're creating like time to make books, but what we're really creating is space. They are buttressed by books. But if we can't replace those books with a movie or like making our TTRPG game or like any of those things, then we're tied to books. And this is where the crazy comes in, because it's like books are a terrible business. What is a great business is being able to make money from your creativity and being able to make money on whatever that is. Currently, today, that is books. In 10 years, that might still be books. But like you probably also want to do these other things. And if we're not finding ways to buttress the space with books and then be able to replace it with anything, now we're just tied to books like we used to be tied to a job.
Yeah, I feel like we have to zoom out our vision and be able to think about things much wider than we have been. But I wanted to circle back to the comic book that y'all are creating together and co-creating. I want to hear how the comic book came about. And then you both worked with, it sounds like you work with a lot of different people. You like collaborating. So what are some things that you would recommend if somebody doesn't have anybody to collaborate with, but they want to collaborate with someone? Collaboration and comics, however y'all want to take that.
It's so much fun to create with somebody because it's fun. So then you're already winning. And if the project goes well, as in it makes a dollar amount, then you get someone to celebrate with. And if it doesn't go well, you have your friendship. And maybe I'm just a Capricorn and everyone I meet, I turn into a business partner, but that's okay. I've embraced it. I like you. Let's start a business. And Russell's been doing comics. I'll turn this over to him pretty quickly because he's the comic expert. I write very spicy books. And I guess I was like, I want a comic or a Pornhub show. I want maybe both, but let's start with the comic. And Russell does comics. So I was like, okay, here we go. And so many projects, it starts with an email. And I'm like, here's the manuscript. And I have no expectations because nothing might come from it. And it's okay because Russell's my friend and I get to email my friend. The next day he returns a script and then he sets it all in motion and he can tell you all the steps. But yeah, in March next year, we're going to have a Kickstarter and we're going to have a comic and it'll be very spicy and very fun and it's beautiful. And I don't really even like launches or I really don't like stuff. I've already covered that. And I don't really like Kickstarter, but I cannot wait for this. It's not Kickstarter. It's just, I don't like launching, but I'm ready. This is going to be fun. So.
Well, what's nice about comics is all writers like art of their characters, and comics is just basically like creating art of your characters. I have accumulated in my life very few skills that I'm world class at, but like one of them is translating comics to books and vice versa. And Lee once said, I'm like her genie. So she's like, I want a podcast. I want a book comic. I want this thing. And I'm like, I can't make you a Pornhub show. But so my friend, Lori, who runs this company called Laguna Studios, was trying to make a line of spicy comic books from not necessarily for the female gaze, but for at minimum a neutral gaze. You write romance here, so like I don't know how spicy I can get, but I can try and keep it a little bit, just a touch below. Most comics are made for the male gaze.
Yes.
And most sex scenes in comics are done in such a way that women read it and say that looks painful, not that looks fun. And Lori and I got to talking and one day and we were like, what if we just found some romance authors like made spicy comics and we just took their market and added the comics market, knowing that not all male, because like comics spicy books are really popular. I was going to say a different word, but they're very popular. And we're like, also not every romance reader is going to move over to comics, but like, we smash these two things together. Like we know how to, we know how to make a romance comic. I did one with Melissa Storm, the Death's Kiss book that we did, and that kind of proved the process. That's where Lee started. We had Melissa on, and then afterwards, she's, I want one of those. And I was like,
I want to do it.
I can do that. I can make that happen.
It was episode 3. So go look up Six-Figure Author Experiment, episode 3.
Yeah.
Melissa Storm. You'll probably see me frothing at the mouth and then pouncing on Russell. We're doing this now.
Yeah. And the artist we got is one of the artists, the most popular cover artist from the Death's Kiss book, Luke Estradi. We have doing the interiors for this book. So it was just, I'm a very big believer in doing things where there's no friction, as I just said, we talked about at the beginning. And it was just like, okay, I know Lori wants these books. I know that these books have been proven out because Lee has made a lot of money on them and people like them. I looked at the reviews. I read the book and I was like, this is a menage book. This is way spicier than our last thing. This is probably the upper limit of what sexiness we could have in a book. But like then I was like, okay, Lee introduced to Lori. They talked. They were like, they came to an agreement and they were like, okay, we're going to do it. And I was like, great. I already wrote the script. So my job's pretty much done.
Yes, exactly.
You made the connection and handed it.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, that's the most fun part. The most fun part is I love it. That moment where you're like, I love it. Let's do it. Because like until that moment, it's like the script is nebulously, does everyone love it? the contract? Does everyone love each other? Are my friends going to communicate together? Is the book going to come together? But there's that like moment where you're like, yeah, of course we should start a podcast together. This is so easy. Even this podcast, like I already knew Jim Wilborn, who's our editor. I already knew Adriel. Like I already knew I'd already done like 500 podcasts. I knew all of the setups that we needed. And it was just like the infrastructure was all done. And we, as authors, to bring this back to authors, I don't think that we do this very well. We're saying, oh, I already laid all this pipe. But how can I like bring other people up through this pipe? How can I use this pipe I already know how to do art and this and that and other things. And we're so bad at it because we just think everyone knows how to do it, but no one knows how to do it. This is what I've learned about working in different industries. No one knows the stack that you know. A person who does music will understand your stack, but you can't go out and make an album tomorrow any easier than they can make a book tomorrow. But like you can so a lot of it is just, okay, let's cross. There's a company called Z2 Comics, and all they do is they make anthologies and they make books about musicians, drawn by musicians, memoirs like written by musicians. Like they did a Weird Al anthology where they like made comics of all of his songs, but they're like, hey, there's an audience over here for this thing. Probably people over here would like this thing, and a certain percent of people who like Weird Al music will like this other thing. And like when you're talking about co-creation, that's the best co-creation for me. It's like, oh, you have an audience in like nonfiction. And if you just made a fiction version of this thing that was like, I don't know how they're like a storybook. So a lot of nonfiction, they eventually have a really popular thing and they're like, I'm going to tell this parable book. That's what it's called. We're like, I want to tell this in a fiction, like a Paio Coelho or something like that. And you're like, okay, if you're using the same methodology and you're really successful on fiction, probably if you made a parable book that I can help you with, like it will be really successful. And then like I can just put it through my pipe. What we end up putting through with co-creation is a lot of the two of you working together or like the two of us working together on a book. And it's like, we both know how to make the pipe. Like we're not just like, how can I use your really successful pipe? And how can I use my successful pipe? Even though there's very little overlap, like the audience can commingle together and we now have doubled or tripled or 10x our audience through that thing.
That's author math. I got a couple of rules for co-writing and I have a YouTube video on it, but I'll run over that. I call it author math when 1 + 1 = 10. Yeah. And my biggest rule is you like the person and if you're going to co-write a book, then you like what they write. I need to like the prose. I need to like their storytelling style. I need to be a fan of their work. If I'm going to co-write a book, if I'm going to collaborate, you can collaborate in so many small ways. You can do an email swap. I can come on your podcast. I can invite you to post the Millionaire Author Mastermind group. Do that do tons of that. Choose small projects to collaborate on. Have y'all ever known like you're in an anthology and there's 20 of you and several of them you will never hear from again. Like as soon as they sign the contract, right? Yeah. But then there's 1 or 2 people who like do so much work and they do everything. And I remember it was always Renee Rose in any anthology. And we've co-written 25 books together now. But I remember thinking like, I was a new author. I'm like, I'm in this anthology with Renee and I'm going to outwork her. And then I'm posting on Twitter like every 5 minutes. I was like, there's no way I can outwork this woman. You want to collaborate with the people. If that's your work style, then you want to collaborate. That's my work style. But that might turn you off actually. So you're going to find the people you like to work with. And you do that by testing a bunch of little projects, like doing something small and pain-free, right? Let's do a free anthology together. Let's do a newsletter swap. And if you have any qualms, any red flags, you say no. If I wasn't willing to just do a handshake agreement with Russell, I would not sign a contract. Do you know what I mean? Yep. If I didn't take Russell's word, yes, this is going to happen. We didn't even have to sign a contract, but I know I trust him. If I don't trust someone, I'm not even going to sign a contract with them.
Listening to your gut.
No, that paper's not going to do one thing for you. Yeah.
So that was part one of our interview with Lee and Russell. You can find their links, Six Figure Author Experiment, the Author Stack, and the Millionaire Author Mastermind Facebook group, all on the show notes. So stay tuned. We'll have part two next week.